What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channel. I am one half of your host, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Check him out on Twitter as well, at Scotty Drowned. And check us out both on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. We all greatly appreciate it. Click the link tree in our bio. It'll take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive in today's show, head on over to the YouTube channel specifically. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it out, whatever you guys got to do. But this is where we can pull up your comments, concerns, thoughts, questions on this week 5 slate that Scotty and I are about to break down, as well as getting into this Chiefs Las Vegas Raiders Monday Night Football matchup. But what's going on, man? How was your Sunday?
It was good. It was good, man. My Monday's been, I won't say even better, but it's been pretty good as well. Had the day off today thanks to Indigenous People Day. Used to be Christopher Columbus Day, but nonetheless, blessing for me to get off today. And I've just been doing I've been doing some NFL research. Yeah, he's ready to get into it,
man. Hey, listen, I'm here. I'm here. I was wrong. I was wrong, and I mean, Hunter's got to be feeling feeling pretty good about now as
going
a Cowboys
into the big
fan.
game against the Birds, man.
I'm here. I can admit when I'm wrong. But yes, sir, it is officially Dallas week here in Philadelphia. But obviously, that's not what today's show will be about. Today's show will be about how the Cowboys were able to come away with another victory under Cooper Rush in LA over the Rams, who I thought had no chance of losing that game yesterday. We'll talk about how the Eagles remain unbeaten 5-0 to start the year as they escaped the Arizona Cardinals in a sloppy game, to say the least. But I'm going to tell all of you Eagles fans why you all need to relax. They did pull away with a win. We'll get into all of that. Much more. A lot more inconsistency yesterday, Scotty. A lot of high scoring games yesterday. And then obviously we have this AFC West battle tonight, Patrick Mahomes and Derek Carr to get into. But let's start with the Eagles. They beat the Arizona Cardinals 20-17 as one newly signed kicker for the Eagles makes his ultimately game-winning field goal with about a minute and a half left, and then a newly acquired practice squad kicker for the Cardinals misses his, and that's how the game is decided. Never leave the game in the hands of your practice squad kicker. That is one takeaway everybody should have from this game. But Scotty, man, I got to tell you, this was my favorite quote from Twitter yesterday that I saw, and I wish I could remember who said it. It just stuck in my brain. I didn't screenshot it, nothing, so I forget who ended up saying it, and I feel bad for not giving credit, but this is it. Scotty, did the Eagles look beatable yesterday? Yes. But every other team has gotten beat. I'm going to say that again. Did the Eagles look beatable yesterday? For sure. Some red flags in that game. It's a sloppy game. But every other team has been beaten this year so far. There's a difference. So what do I mean by that? They're not going to go undefeated. We all know this. They're not going to blow every team out by 24 in the first half of every single week. But the bottom line is they're continuing to find ways to win. Scotty, that game was far from pretty. In fact, it was probably, you and I were texting about it, it was probably the first time all year the game actually felt like it was going to be a loss, right? I didn't love the offensive play calling in the second half. I didn't love that I saw old Jonathan Gannon and that scheme pop back into my eyes where it's all prevent and tight and keep everything in front of you, bend but don't break. The bottom line is the defense only gave up 17 points, and that final drive, that final offensive drive for the Eagles was an absolute clinic. So what do I mean by absolute clinic? The Arizona Cardinals make this a game at halftime. They continue to make it a game throughout the third quarter. And at the end of the third quarter, they put together about an 8-minute drive, 7-minute drive, where they end with points. And it's a one-possession game. Or actually, they tie the game, 17-17. Eagles get the ball back with about 9 or so minutes left. And I sit there and I say, I need you guys to do the same thing. I need this offense to end this drive with points and take time off the clock. What did the Eagles do? 17 play drive, 7-minute and 58-second drive, making Arizona use all 3 of their timeouts and coming away with points that ultimately wins you the game. Doesn't matter how you got there. Doesn't matter what happened on the end of the drive. Kyler makes a mental error. The kicker misses a field goal. Bottom line, Eagles won a road game. They continue to find ways to win. And that final drive was another check mark, Scotty. Another question answered. What's going to happen when things don't look so pretty, when they're losing a game later, when they're tied in a game late? And that final offensive possession was as pretty as it gets. Did they run the ball 90% of that drive, 95% of that drive? You're damn right. But guess what? When it came down to it, did Jalen Hurts have a perfect game? No, he did not. But that final possession, 3rd and 9, he sees something pre-snap. He checks to his read. He switches the play, stares down a defender in his face, and delivers a ball to Dallas Goedert for a first down that keeps that drive alive and takes off more time from Kyler Murray being on the field. So the end of that game, I like the way it ended. Defense ultimately did its job, even though it wasn't pretty. And again, a win is a win. Scotty, floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there's 2 ways that I come into this game, and I've been listening to all the talk about it all day. I don't think there's any need to overreact in any fashion. Like you said, it's a win. A win is a win. But I'll say there is 2 different perspectives that you can ultimately look from here. And the first one is just that. A win is a win on the road. You're going to the West Coast. It's a late afternoon game. You're going against a mobile quarterback. It is the best quarterback that you've played this season in reality. And so you take that win on the road, right? Any way you can get it. Obviously it wasn't pretty. And then on that same front, we complained about the game plan, the adjustments that were made throughout the game, the play calling down the stretch, right? The way the defense was ultimately playing against that Arizona offense, and they still won. So that's the positive outlook. That's the way to look at it, going into this next week against Dallas. And one more positive that I would even take it a step further. It's kind of the best way that you could win the week before you go and play a 4-1 Dallas team.
You're not playing your best football.
Yeah, you're not playing your best football, so you don't go into this game asleep. They're going to be up. They're going to know what they need to do this week in order to be better. And so from that standpoint,
they can look back at.
That's a lot of positives that come out of this game. And then from the other standpoint is that we are talking about a 5-0 team now, and we do have to hold them to a higher standard. And we can nitpick, for sure, in a sense, every little thing that they do in every piece of the game. For example, right, in the grand scheme of things, the Eagles are 5-0. They've beat some good teams. I'm not hearing that they haven't beat good teams. I'm done with that conversation. They're 5-0. They beat who they've had in front of them, and they've done it in a fairly good fashion, right? A fairly dominant fashion. But when you go into, let's just say power rankings, for instance, and I'm thinking about the top teams of the league, I'm looking at Buffalo, and then I'm looking at Kansas City tonight to see where I'm putting the Eagles in my power rankings, because it really depends how the Kansas City Chiefs come out here and handle the Raiders tonight. But that's just an example, right? Like, now I'm getting to the point where I'm nitpicking the Eagles versus not against the Cardinals, not against the rest of the NFC East or even the NFC. Yeah. We're talking about the top class of the NFL. So at that point, it's not a negative thing. It's just an observation. It's an analyzation point. And that's where I'm at with the Birds. Yes, it's a W. I take it. We're going to keep moving, and we're going to keep getting better, I would hope. And a win is a win. You take it. And as you mentioned, it is a different type of win. It is a final drive that we needed to see them succeed on, get points in order to win this game. And we saw that. So, I get it. There's going to be the concerns throughout the season, and these things are going to pop up. Like, it's going to happen. There's going to be concerns throughout the season. We're not a perfect team at the end of the day. And that's what it comes down to. People have to open their eyes to that. While you can be critical, also just take this win for what it is. I saw people criticizing Jalen Hurts, man. And, looking at that game, that's not a Jalen. Like, if you think that's a Jalen Hurts bad game, first of all, I don't agree with you there. I thought it was a Jalen Hurts decent,
the hell of a bad game.
Good game. Yeah, I thought it was like a decent / good game. Like, he got up over 230 passing yards. He was effective in the running game, got 2 rushing touchdowns, and didn't turn the ball over. As simple as that. So Just looking at it from that perspective, I think, you got to take this win. You take these wins each week any way that you can get them. We don't have beggars can't be choosers, right? We're out here begging the Eagles to win every week. We can't be choosing and picky about how they're getting them.
So obviously we're not going to talk Dallas week right now, but I said this to Gin on the Faithful Fanatic show. Like, we're coming at a very interesting collision course this Sunday night because the Eagles are 5-0. They are the last remaining undefeated team, and we're sitting here criticizing it, how they win. How's it going to feel when they lose? But we all know they're not going to go undefeated. Like, it's not going to happen. It's just a weird feeling to me that it's the Dallas, because this can't be the loss. Like,
I know
Dallas is 4-1. We're 5-0, playing for first place early on in the year. Primetime football. Cooper Rush probably under center, I would imagine, at this point of the week. They're going to lose, but please don't let this week be that first loss, right? But I want to go back to a very important thing you said. You talked about holding them. The flip side of things was holding them to a higher standard. You're right. Connor Thomas was just on the Faithful Fanatic show earlier, and he mentioned the same thing. But there's a difference, Scotty, from having a conversation, picking out things you disliked, problems, red flags, talking about them, and then viewing this game as a negative. Because this game was far from a negative. Yes, we have to hold them to a higher standard. They need to clean things up. There's part of the games they need to clean up and be better at moving forward. That does not mean this loss was a problem. Ruben Frank tweeted this earlier, and it perfectly summarizes my thoughts on this game, and it goes back to week 1 when everyone was basically taking the win as a loss because there was no style points. The St. Louis, the LA Rams were 5.5-point favorites. They win or lose, Scotty.
They lost.
The Miami Dolphins were 3-point favorites. They lost. The Jacksonville Jaguars were 7-point favorites. They lost. The Green Bay Packers were 10-point favorites. They lost. The Denver Broncos were 3-point favorites. They lost. I guarantee you, all of those fan bases and all of those teams would be insanely happy with an ugly win this week.
Yeah.
That is the difference. I go back to my opening statement. Did the Eagles look beatable? Yes. But every other team in the NFL has been beaten so far, and there is a difference. Great teams find ways to win. It is very difficult to win at this level. And if they continue to do what they're doing right now, I need everybody to stop the negativity. Again, me and you are going to, in 2 seconds, we're going to start talking about some of the things they need to clean up and that we didn't like. Because realistically, outside of the win, there's not much I'm sitting back and going, wow, I loved that yesterday.
Yeah.
The defense, sloppy. Not a lot of pass rush. Gannon playing the corners 12 yards off the line of scrimmage. A lot of missed tackles defensively. A lot of missed assignments with Hollywood Brown and Zach Ertz over the middle. Why? Because of that shell coverage Gannon runs. Offensively, where was the rushing attack in the first 3 quarters of that game? Why throw 57 bubble screens to Devontae Smith over and over again? And at no point when you run the same play over and over again, you didn't think once Arizona starts leaning that way to not fake and take a shot down the field, not one time, and see if it opened anything up. Like, trust me, there were a lot of negatives, a lot of ugly things that went on throughout this game. That does not mean the game as a whole was a negative.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And, just looking at kind of the transgression of how did we get here? We're at 5-0, and we have this expectation now of the Eagles needing to come out and dominate every single week. And how do we get here?
It doesn't happen, man.
I think back even the last, before the Jags game, right? They came back against the Jags down 14-0. Second halves of that Minnesota and that DC game, we're sitting there up 24-0, 24-6, whatever the score is in those 2 games. It only ended up being 24-7, 24-8.
Right.
We're sitting here talking about, this team needs to score in the second half. Like, what the hell's going on? Why is the offense just not moving in the second half? And, I'm just thinking back to those moments. That was already us picking up on what was happening here.
Yeah.
This team being held to a higher expectation because this team is really good. And to your point, just going into Dallas week and coming out of this win, it's kind of like what I was telling you yesterday. I'm getting to the point with this Eagles team where it's not false confidence, dog. Like, if they end up going 5-1, that doesn't make me have false confidence. They had 5 other wins to the 1 loss. So like I'm going into this Dallas game, and I think honestly, bro, we have a good chance of beating the shit out of them. And I think that every week, I think that we just have a team that if they play up to their standard, they're going to wax any team in front of them. They have that capability. It's just about going out and doing it every single week. That's what makes the greatest football teams. But this team has a ton of talent. I get the expectations, but just slow down a little bit. It's week by week, one game by one game. And listen to what the players and coaches are saying. They're not sitting here saying like, yeah, we're 5-0. You know, we don't need to
doesn't
get
want to hear
better.
it.
You know what I mean? They're not acting like that. There's no reason to
I
act
absolutely
like
love that this kid has not even been has not been happy with how the last 4 weeks have turned out. Like, don't get me wrong. He says, let's enjoy it, blah, blah. He points out everything that went wrong and how they have not played up to their standard, as you just mentioned. And that's one hell of a attribute to have in your franchise quarterback, in your leader. But I'll take it a step further, man. Just talking about the totality of this win. You and I were on the pregame show yesterday, and what was kind of the first thing we talked about? Now, I didn't use the term trap game, but I heard a lot on the radio today that people were talking about it being a trap game last week, which I was unaware of, but I can see how it would be viewed as that. And they were talking about it. Me and you sat here and said, it feels off. It feels weird because there's this calmness. There's this coolness that they're just going to go in and win this game. Now, we didn't term it a trap game, but I guess at the end of the day, thinking about our emotions heading in, it was essentially a trap game. Yeah. So, Scotty, when you point out a trap game on the schedule with Dallas coming to town next week and they walk out of said trap game with a W, just take it. Just take it. Talk about the flaws, but take the win, man. I love this city. I love this fan base, but it just seems like they can never just be happy. There's people calling in the sports talk radio that the win wasn't good enough, that the Cardinals offense stinks, blah, 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 blah. Stop. But let's talk about some of those negatives.
They stink. They only had 17 points. Like it's not like they just blew our minds with offense. Like if they stink, they only had 17 points. So fair. The Cardinals do have a good defense, and you saw that yesterday. They're very athletic. They're fast. They can get to the ball quick. I mean, that's what we watched yesterday. You got to understand what you're looking at. Yeah, I mean, end-to-end speed, man. It's ridiculous, but. Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, just understand what you're watching it from game to game. And at the end of the day, the Eagles came out, held them to 17 points.
I'll tell you
that a bad defensive performance, so be it. But
to me, I know a lot was viewed on the defense getting torched kind of down the second half and letting Arizona move down the field very quickly, especially in the final possession.
There's a feeling that goes along with it. Yeah,
for sure. But to me, this was way less on the players than it was coaching and scheme and game plan on both sides of the ball. The game plan, but so before we get into offense and Sirianni, let me ask you this about Gannon, because I mentioned this to Connor Thomas. He brought up the fact about how he did not like how he saw Gannon prepare for the best offense, the best quarterback, as you mentioned, he's played this year, and he went back to that tight, keep everything in front of me type of thing. I didn't view it at that. I kind of viewed it as what I pointed out week 1 against Detroit. They got a big lead. The opponent starts to come back. Now he tightens up. So what do you think it was more so that was the game plan coming in and it was an overall bad game plan? Or do you think Gannon shriveled up a little bit when that became a 17-14 ball game and he just did not want to get beat deep at all? Doesn't make it right, but I don't know if it was the totality of the game plan that was off.
Yeah, because I mean, it wasn't like that in the first half, right? And it wasn't like that.
I liked what I saw from
at the beginning of the game. So I do see what you're getting at there. I think there's a little bit of it there, right? A little bit of hesitancy that comes with blitzing a mobile quarterback, and I think that's maybe what everybody's getting at, just the lack of aggressiveness. And that would be one weakness they showed or concern they showed in this game. Maybe not even lack of aggressiveness or lack of blitzing, but just the lack of pass rush. But at the end of the day, you got to understand when you're playing a mobile quarterback, a lot of these schemes, a lot of these role assignments change. And there's a lot more responsibility when you have to keep your eyes on Kyler Murray coming out of the backfield, as we've seen people try to deal with Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean? So I think there's a little bit of that's just Gannon's philosophy. And like at a certain point when he gets into his base defense, that's what you're going to get. And you just hope that, it doesn't come out against the likes of, good quarterbacks, I would say. I was going to say Aaron Rodgers, but the Packers aren't good. So, it's interesting. I need to see more, I guess, right? Before I can designate that as a trend that he's doing that against Kyler Murray because he's the best quarterback we played, right? Like it didn't look like that against Kirk Cousins, and that's what he should have did. That's what he should have done against Kirk Cousins. It didn't look like that against Carson Wentz. That's what he should have done against Carson Wentz. Bring the house, right? Trevor Lawrence, you were getting pressure on him in a muddy, rainy game. So it's just a different game. You're in a dome. This is a mobile quarterback. I think there's a lot of things that factor in there that's kind of beyond, just us sitting on the couch and saying, oh, what the hell are you doing, Gannon? Yeah. If I see it again, let's say Dak does play next week. If I see this happening again, then maybe I'm going to start to worry a little bit more about Gannon. But so far this season, he's trending in the right direction. That may have just been a little mishap
outlier
in the trend.
Yeah. So Scotty, real quick to interject here, Tyrese Maxey has 3 threes in the first 3 minutes of the Sixers preseason game in Cleveland right now. This is not Scotty Talks NBA, but if Tyrese Maxey even comes close to averaging 15 in the first half of on a night-to-night basis like he has so far in the preseason, my Lord, the Sixers team is going to be a lot of fun. But looking back on the offense, I think Nick Sirianni's game plan was horrifying in this one, and it almost felt like this was a trap game for him. Like he sleptwalked his way through this one, expected a win. Thankfully, they came away with one, but they might have been watching Dallas tape already last week when they should have been watching Cardinal tape because – man, I texted the group chat in the first half. Like, I get it. They were up 14-0. Then it was 14-7. Right when things started to tighten up, I'm looking and I'm like, man, they're throwing the ball an awful lot today. Now, I know, as you pointed out, the Cardinals were 23rd or 24th against the pass, and they were top 10 against the run so far through 4 weeks of the season. But I believe Hurts had like 21 or 22 dropbacks or 22 attempts, and Sanders had like 3 or 4 carries at one point, and obviously Gainwell might have had one. Like that's just that's not the balance we're looking for, especially when you watch what they did on the final possession of the game behind that offensive line. Yeah, don't really like that. And then again, you took no shots down the field. I get it, maybe things weren't there, but not even to give the illusion that you can take the top off the defense. You do none of that. There was not a lot of intermediate stuff. AJ Brown caught three intermediate passes on the first drive. Didn't get the ball again. You ran 5,800 wide receiver screen passes, and while any of them's too many, after the first few, why was everyone designed for Devontae Smith? Like I texted you, like, all right, you want to keep running these screen passes and getting balls in guys' hands. Where's one for AJ? Where's one for Quez with the speed? Every single one went to Devontae Smith. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And by the 58th one, the Cardinals were caught onto it.
I just with the AJ thing in the screens, I don't understand that at all. And there were times throughout that second half specifically where AJ Brown was not on the field at all. They had Devontae Smith out there with 3 tight ends or whatever the case may be, and that just doesn't make sense to me. Is AJ Brown injured? Because there's no way that Devontae Smith should be on the field and AJ Brown is not. That's like I hate to get to that point with like wide receiver 1A and 1B, but like it's very simple for me. AJ Brown should be the one wide receiver on the field when you have a wide receiver on the field. So I didn't understand any of that, quite honestly.
Speaking of injury,
if AJ's
Jason
getting,
Kelce is a monster. Jason Kelce
absolutely
is an absolute warrior. Throughout the yesterday's ball game, obviously you had to start Jack Driscoll at left tackle with no Jordan Mailata, excuse me, and then I'm pretty sure Landon. What was ever the report on Landon Dickerson?
It was just like a left leg injury,
left
lower leg injury.
But yeah, man. Anything else on this game? Like you said, we had the conversation. We're talking negatives because there was not a lot of prettiness or positives from this game, but the one major positive and the only positive that matters is it's another tick up in the win column, and that's the biggest thing right now, man.
Yeah.
The Birds are 5-0. I really, it doesn't feel. Does it feel real? Does it like?
It's starting to, man. Like I said, I'm starting to get. I don't even just want to. I don't want to say like overconfident because it's not. It's just pure confidence. I'm very solidified in
Yep.
what I believe this team could do. And the one thing I will say that the Eagles did well yesterday, aside from just winning overall, Goddard usage was perfect. I thought the way they used him was absolutely perfect. They used him in big moments down the field. They used him in screen game, which Goddard is built for screens. That's obviously works. That's a good idea. The Devontae Smith thing, man, they must have saw something in tape where they thought that was going to catch them off guard or something. I don't know. Maybe the blitz, they just went heavy Smitty screen, and that's weird to me. But we live to see another day, nonetheless.
Yes, we do. All right, let's move on to our main Week 5 takeaways across the NFL. Scotty, I'm looking at the slate, and we talked about it on Turf Talk yesterday morning. I hated the slate. I absolutely hated it. But, however, there was a decent amount of good, high-scoring games. The Saints and Seahawks had a battle. The Minnesota Vikings had a scare at home against Justin Fields and the Bears. The Chargers and Cleveland had a shootout. But first things first, I want to start with that London game because we're sitting here and we're talking inconsistency across the NFL. And my God, I know you had them higher in your power rankings than I did. And what did I say to you last week? If give me a loss and not just give me a reason to take you out of my top 10. And my goodness, did Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers give me a reason to remove them from my top 10 this week. They lose to the New York Giants 27-22. The game was going on. It was halftime when we were on Turf Talk, and you and I had a Giants cover, and at the time we're like just praying for them to cover 8 or 8.5, and next thing you know, the Packers get shut out in the second half.
Yep.
This is what I mean about this offense, man. They don't have it. And miss me, I heard people on ESPN last night and this morning basically talk about, Aaron Rodgers is up to here speed-wise. And they knew coming into this year that the wide receivers are this skill position group is going to be down here. They have to catch up to Rodgers. And how do you catch up to Rodgers? Time. So give them time. Miss me with that, man. They look horrible. And tell me which wide receiver, if it's on them, tell me which wide receiver is going to step up as the year goes on. Is it 48-year-old Randall Cobb that's been in Green Bay for 2 decades, it feels like? Is it Christian Watson, who barely sees the ball every single week? Is it Romeo? Is it Dobbs? He's the one.
I do like Dobbs.
He's the one flash. He's the one guy, and even that is down to here right now, man. They don't get the running backs involved the way they should. The defense, which is supposed to be the bright spot, I'm sorry. How do you give up 27 points to Daniel Jones and the New York Giants? It just shouldn't happen if you're a top 10 defense in the league. It is bad, man. I don't see any hope for Green Bay. As an Eagles fan, I love it when we're talking seeding. When you see what the Rams are doing, you see what the Packers are doing. The Bucs, if not for one of the worst roughing the passer calls I've ever seen in my lifetime, doesn't happen. Who knows if they have a scare versus the freaking Falcons? So the Packers. On my shit list. Horrible.
I mean, as far as the Packers and seeding, I mean, they're not even the leader of their division right now.
Exactly.
So we're competing with the Vikings in seeding if we're talking about that, you know what I mean? But with the Packers, it's interesting. I do agree they look like shit. And regardless of what's going on the other side of that New York Giants team, I get it. The New York Giants are 4-1 right now. You don't go out there and lose if you're the Packers, if you're Aaron Rodgers in that game in London on national television. Let's be honest, it was nationally televised. And just on the other side with the Giants, and just thinking Packers in top 10 of power, like there's no way, because the Giants would go there before the Packers would go there.
Yeah.
And
I don't take the Giants seriously enough to put them up there.
I would say that was a good win for the Giants.
Big win
it was a great win.
Yeah.
The way Daniel Jones, they don't have a passing game at all. And don't get me wrong, they don't scare me. It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
They're tough. They play tough. They can run the football.
Play well
Saquon Barkley is back. He's looking really good. But overall, a good tough win for them, but that's a game that the Packers just simply can't drop if you are a good team. I will say I don't think they're at their ceiling yet. I do think that whether it's Dobbs
I
or
don't
one of
think it's
these
their
receivers
ceiling.
can get better and get that repertoire, get that chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. I think there is one of those guys in there. If it's Dobbs, Lazard's been he's had a couple drops
All
himself.
right,
He
he's
can't stay
supposed to be
healthy.
the guy. He scored yesterday
Yeah,
too.
but it's grim look. It's
I-
a grim outlook for the Packers because if they go and play the Vikings today, what happens? They're going to lose again. So I don't know when that pops back up on the schedule. Just running into certain teams, it just does not look good for the Packers. They're sitting here having trouble outscoring the Giants and the Patriots, who are playing with Zappy and Daniel Jones, who me and HP talked off the show, obviously, just through text. We were talking about Daniel Jones as maybe the worst quarterback in the NFL. So, these are the situations that the Packers are in right now.
It's funny, Phil, because I'm pretty sure Green Bay gets the Jets next week, and
they better dominate.
They just may be my survivor pool picks, guys. So, like, as bad as I am, I do it. It's
they
just
better
because,
dominate.
right, Phil? He said just because that's what they'll do.
But hey, the Jets just dropped 40 on the Dolphins, and the Dolphins, they got the injured quarterback and shit. Their defense isn't beat up like that, right? Their corners are kind of beat up. But the Jets dropped 40 on them.
Yeah, man.
Are the Packers going to be able to keep up with the Jets? I'm not saying I'm going to pick the Jets in that game, but come on. It's a combo at this point.
Rating this Packers defense, it's tough, man, especially because I believe they're pretty healthy. I don't know of a major injury that they have off the top of my head. They are, if not the highest paid defense, one of the highest paid defenses in all of the National Football League. It just goes with the inconsistency. Yeah. Like that side of the ball has just been so damn inconsistent as well. Like you can't. What did they give up against New England at home last week? In the 20s, wasn't it? 24?
7 or something?
Something like that. Like that can't happen. 27 against the Giants can't happen.
And I think part of it's like you said, it's the inconsistencies all around, because I do think part of it is that the offense isn't scoring. Like the defense was able to hang on against the Bucs, right? Keep it to 14-12. And over a season, you just can't win like that when you're putting so much strain on your defense on top of it. So it's rough outlook for the Packers, man. If you're having a tough time with the Giants, God.
And you see how down I am on them. I'm more down on them than you are, especially that offense. But from talking to me over the last year or two, how big of an Aaron Rodgers guy I am. In terms of pure talent, he might be the GOAT to me, like just in terms of quarterback, in terms of talent, not winning anything like that.
Yeah.
But this is a huge asterisk on his name, because what do we talk about with the great ones, like the GOATs, the true great ones? They make the others around them better. They do more with less than anybody else. Now, I'm not saying what he has right now in Randall Cobb and Christian Watson and Alan Lazard is what Brady did with like Deion Branch. Like that Deion, like they were a little bit better, even though Brady did a lot with less, right? But at some point throughout this year, you better show me something, because if you like, you get what I'm trying to say? I can't phrase it correctly, but I know you don't have a lot, but if you are one of the greatest of all time, you need to start finding ways to score points and win games. That is the bottom line. I don't care who is around you. You have to find a way to do it.
What throws me off so much about their offense is like A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Like they just can't get those guys going either. So it's like, I get it. You don't have wide receivers, so it does hinder the run game to an extent. But like, you can't get Aaron Jones involved in the passing game more. Like I just don't understand what they're doing. Can extend back up to that coaching, Matt LaFleur. It's like all of a sudden his question marks have disappeared or something. He's a questionable coach that has been playing with he's been coaching a lot of talent over the last few years, including the back-to-back MVP, and has not come away with anything with it. So there's a lot of question marks we could get deep into with the Green Bay Packers right now. And even just as simple as that, what they did this offseason, you let Devontae Adams go and you did not replace him. And it's clearly showing. I mean, it's so obvious, and it's almost it's embarrassing. It's not almost. It's embarrassing for Green Bay.
Speaking of a team that it was underperforming to our standards and had question marks. They answered a question this morning. The Carolina Panthers get absolutely ran over at home against Jimmy G and the 49ers, 37-15. I don't know why the Niners -6.5 wasn't my play of the day. I don't know why I felt the need to tease it down. My goodness, was that the easiest money you could have made yesterday? But the Panthers come out this morning and fire head coach Matt Rule. They also turned around and fired their defensive coordinator as well. Teams are calling to check in on DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, players on the defensive side of the ball. Could be a whole fire sale down in Carolina. Scotty, for a team that went out and acquired Baker Mayfield, for a team that you and I thought could potentially run for second place maybe in the AFC South behind the Bucs, because we didn't like what we saw in terms of Jameis Winston and the Saints, and obviously what the Falcons are, and rightfully so. Like right now, Jameis is hurt. The Saints won a game. I get it, but they're still 2-3 on the year. They don't look good, but my God, Baker Mayfield, the Panthers defense, the Panthers play calling, it was a dumpster fire down there. Yeah. And at least they're holding people accountable, I guess. Now, we're going to find out what the problem was. Apparently, Matt Rule lost the locker room. I didn't understand the play calling myself. Baker Mayfield throwing the ball 38 times. Christian McCaffrey getting handed the ball 7 times. Makes zero sense to me. But maybe the quarterback is much more of a conversation than we thought. Now Baker's out. Sam Darnold's not even back yet, so PJ Walker is slated to start this upcoming week. Thoughts about the Matt Rule firing? Do you think a lot of it had to do with him, or is he kind of the scapegoat in Carolina?
Nah, I think a lot of it had to do with Matt Rule, quite honestly. There's just not a lot going on there. They fired Joe Brady already. He was supposed to be the second coming of Sean McVay, right? Yeah. This innovative young football mind. He gets fired. He kind of gets thrown under the bus. And I think Matt Rule kind of showed, hey, he's gone. This offense is still terrible. We're still not calling the games the way that we should be. Not using the weapons the way that they should be, quite honestly. I know Baker Mayfield is not some world beater, but they should be better than what they are. They should be able to put up points when you have CMC coming out of the backfield. And the most interesting thing to me out of all of this is, are they going to be having a fire sale? Are they going to be moving CMC?
I think they are.
I saw the Bills reached out about CMC, and if you're the Bills, first of all, why would you not send it for CMC? Because they get CMC. Good luck. I don't know any. I don't see how you can beat the Bills when they have Christian McCaffrey in their backfield. Some other guys, right? DJ Moore. Where does a guy like that? Where does he get coveted? And then Brian Burns on the opposite end, on the defensive end, pass rusher. That's a guy I'd like to see us, if he's available, take a look at. Pair him and Hassan Reddick up again, right? But no, it's interesting to watch it all play out. Like you said, we had them ranked fairly high in the NFC South going into the season. And here we are now with no light at the end of the tunnel, because even they drafted, who was it, Matt Corral? He's out for the season, so you can't even take a look at a younger guy either.
Yeah, man, and it's weird, right? Because we don't get the answers to the questions we're looking for. Baker's out. So
right.
Not that with whoever the interim is, whoever the new play caller stepping in is, it's going to change things so drastically it makes Baker look good. I'm just curious to know, has Baker been – I haven't seen a lot of Carolina Panthers football this year.
Yeah.
But I look at the numbers, I see the record, I see the disparity from pass to run. And it's been really, although that's a home game, dude. That's not in San Fran.
To get smoked like that.
Right. Yeah. And we're talking about a San Fran team who you and I think highly of with that defense and Jimmy G under center, and, looked great last week against the Rams. But that's a Niners team that got held to 10 points against Denver 2 weeks ago. So clearly that team can be slowed down. And you just let them walk up and down the field on you. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I guess we'll find out who really should be held accountable in Carolina. Another takeaway, talk about holding teams accountable, teams being inconsistent, teams surprising us. Got to talk about it, man. I can't keep pushing them out of my top 10. I can't keep holding them out because they haven't beaten anybody. They just went on the road and beat my Super Bowl favorite heading into the year. The Dallas Cowboys come away with a 12-point win against the Rams. Yeah. Thoughts on this game, man? Again, the Eagles were on the same time. Didn't see a whole lot of this game, but from what I could tell, right from the jump, that defensive line, that pressure from the Cowboys was too much. I know there was a block punt, a fumble recovery for the first touchdown of the game. Pretty sure Cooper Rush was only 10 of 16 through the air. So it's not like the Cowboys offense went off, but the Rams did everything to lose this game. First possession, Stafford sack, fumble, 7-0. Get the ball back, punt in your own territory. Cowboys block it, get a field goal quick. It's 9-0, 5 minutes in. Positive Cowboys or negative Rams on this one?
A little bit of both. I got to give credit where it's due. As you said, they're going to be in my top 10 power rankings this week. They have to be. I mean, two impressive wins. I'll give it to them against the Bengals. I know it was at home. I know the Bengals are kind of looking iffy, whatever the case. It's still a team that was in the Super Bowl last year. And then the Rams, you come out and just dominate them on the road. I know it's LA, but it still was technically on the road. Yep. They came out, dominated them. What I will say is their defense is real. Their defense is really good. Their pass rush is really good. The concern with them is going to be health over a long-standing point. Obviously, Micah Parsons, he's playing through a groin injury. The last thing you want to do is further that injury, so I don't know how they're going to be taking care of that. But ultimately, that defense is really good. And I think when I'll put it this way. When you don't have an offensive line the caliber of the Eagles, the Cowboys can terrorize you. When you don't have a good offensive line, which the Rams offensive line is pretty tore up right now. They lost Andrew Whitworth from last year. That was their long-standing tackle. So there's a lot of moving pieces there. But I'm not giving the excuses to the Rams. You know what I mean? No. These are the Super Bowl champions. You got to go out there and win a game at home. You don't get that excuse of beat up off. Cowboys have a beat up offensive line right now. They have a ton of injuries that they're coming back from. They have a backup quarterback playing. That's the biggest thing. So I'm going to give the credit to the Cowboys. I am concerned heavily about the Rams because, yes, you're not going to play the Cowboys defensive front every single week, but where does the consistent offense come from? You can't even run the football at all. You can't run the football at all, and you can't get the ball to anybody outside of Cooper Kupp. It just looks really bad. Matthew Stafford had another bad game, of course. You're gonna when you're getting pressured like that. I mean, it's unfathomable. But exactly what Hunter's saying right there. You got to give it to the coaching. That's the other side of things. The defense is real. The defense is really good. It's talented. They got a great pass rush. When you go back to the offensive end, when Dak comes back, are you going to run the offense like that? And don't get me wrong, I don't care if Dak's back next week or not. I really don't, because I don't care if the Cowboys try to run the football. Like I said, my confidence is like that right now. And I'm bringing it back to the Eagles because it's Dallas week. But when we're not talking about going against the Eagles next week, Dallas has a really good offensive front. And running the football, that is a good formula for them, right? Run first football team when you have Zeke and you have Tony Pollard, who is really explosive. So I think that's all part of it. It's great coaching. You got to give your tip your hat to Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy playing without Dak. But do they stay like that when Dak comes back, or do you go back to throwing the ball 30-plus times a game? And if they do, I think that's when the Cowboys, honestly, when they're not controlling time, it's the same formula that we go by. The Cowboys just don't stick to it. Yep. And it's just an interesting thought, but I do think they'll end up reverting right back to Dak attack. And it's going to end up with a lot of garbage time Dak numbers and a lot of losses. But I got to give the credit to the Cowboys. They're looking good right now.
No, for sure, man. And the one point about keeping that D-line, that defense fresh, it's not even just keeping your secondary fresh. It's keeping that defensive front, that pass rush fresh, which allows them to pin their ears back and get at their quarterbacks with success. And again, to bring it towards the Eagles' point, they're going to get a guy. They're going to have a task that they haven't faced this season with that pass rush. It's a better offensive line. Now, Jordan Mailata playing is a big question mark. A big if for the Eagles this week because it changes a lot of things. But it's going to be a much better offensive line than they faced, and it's going to be a mobile quarterback. Joe Burrow, semi-mobile, not a mobile quarterback. Daniel Jones can run out of the pocket, but he's not like an escapability type of extending plays quarterback. Carson Wentz, now Matthew Stafford. So it's a different task that Dallas will have on their hands this year.
I'm not going that route, Hunter, because regardless of what happens this weekend, I'm telling you, I'm not looking at the Eagles on the same plane as like these other teams in the NFL. This is a great test for the Cowboys this week.
Yeah.
If you come out and you give up 30 points to the Eagles, it's not that your defense is bad. It's really not. It's not like that. So I don't want you to think that, we're going to start flipping on the Cowboys if we come out and play a certain way. The Cowboys come out and play a certain way. Cowboys have looked good through 5 weeks so far. They have a huge test, as do the Eagles, with that defense. That's going to be a different defensive front than we've seen all season. So it's going to be a hell of a game, man. I know we're going to talk about it like till our ears and eyes
all week long,
and mouth
especially
bleeds,
because we haven't seen Jalen Hurts. We have not seen Jalen Hurts against this Dallas Cowboys team since week 3 of last year, when he looked like a deer in headlights. Probably had his worst start of his NFL career in that Monday Night Football game. So you're hoping for this right here. You're hoping he's evolved, and what we've seen through the first 5 weeks continues on Sunday Night Football. But I got one more point I want to get to. And then if you have any other takeaways before we get into this matchup tonight, as we hit the 8 o'clock hour soon. We brought it up a little bit yesterday, on Turf Talk in the morning, and then the game plays. And then the Detroit Lions find a way to lose 29-0 against that third string quarterback of Bailey Zappi and the New England Patriots on the road. And literally, as I'm thinking about this, I'm scrolling on Twitter, and a tweet comes up 18 minutes ago from Michael David Smith. The Lions fired Jim Caldwell for going 36-28. Since then, they are 18-50-2. Now, obviously, the 18-50-2 is not Dan Campbell's record. He's only been there since last year. But I tweeted this out to you yesterday. At what point, at what singular point does winning become a factor in a good head coach?
It's this season for Detroit. There is no excuses for Dan Campbell. We've seen what the offense can do. We've seen the usage and the different things that he's done and the bad decisions that he's made and the poor performances. Let's be honest. This doesn't have to do with talent. You come out and you lose. You can't put up a point. You're getting touted around as the highest scoring offense in the NFL, and you can't score a point?
Dude, I texted you this. This is when the game changed, man. The game was close. The defense was fine early on in the game, and you and I had them in the teaser, which, by the way, was the only loss in that teaser. So I'm even more pissed off at Dan Campbell. But it was a 6-0 game with about a minute and a half left in the first half. The Lions had the ball on New England's 30, 4th and 9. Scotty, he goes for it. It would have been a 6-3 game if you attempt a field goal heading into halftime, probably. Hold on. He goes, not 4th and 1, not 4th and 2, 4th and 3. He goes for it on 4th and 9. Goff gets sacked, strip sacked, fumble recovery, touchdown. 13-0 at halftime, and New England gets the ball to start the half. That's when the game was over. That's a coaching decision. Could you imagine if in a 6-0 game on the road, Nick Sirianni went for a 4th and 9, well within field goal range, and it turned out that disastrously? This is my point. I get it, man. And especially they were on Hard Knocks this year. He's that rah-rah guy. He told everyone last year he will bite your ear off to make a play, to win a game, and the players seem to love him, and some of the fan base loves him, right? He's got a big personality. He's loud, and he loves the game of football. None of that shit matters if you can't win. The Lions don't have a lot to work with. They are not a good football team, Scotty. Guess what? We're talking about the 1-4 Detroit Lions. The 1-4 Lions. When you mention this season, bro, I'm not talking about holding them accountable and, Dan Campbell needs to win. They need to go 8-9 or 7-10. You can't win 6 games with this offense. What happens when they continue to pile up losses and the Detroit Lions walk out of this year with 4 wins? He should be gone. And I don't I'm not here to that's someone's livelihood, right? That's a family's livelihood. I'm not here sitting here rooting for someone to be gone. But at the end of the day, it's a sports team. It's a business. And if it was our city, if it's the Eagles, not on a personal level, but if we had this situation going on, we'd be calling for him to be fired, right? Were we happy when when the Phillies let go of Joe Girardi? Hell yeah, we were happy. We were shouting from the rooftops. What about when the Phillies parted ways with Matt Klentak? Hell yeah, we were happy, right? So it's not a personal thing. It's just people don't want to talk about it. Too many people love him, and he gets a pass. Oh, well, the Lions aren't that good. They're better than 1-4. They're better than 29-0 against a third-string quarterback in New England.
Absolutely.
I can promise you that.
Absolutely.
So I don't know why I care so much about this, because I just
because they have potential, man, and you've seen it this season, the signs of it, and it's just not coming together the way it should.
It's that
even
like, I just
you can
don't
lose
like
games. You can lose games. You just can't lose games like that in those fashions, right? The way they've lost has just been gut-wrenching.
Not when I put money on.
And that's something that he's been, preaching. If you watch Hard Knocks, he was preaching that throughout, the preseason training camp, is learning how to win. And you obviously haven't been able to teach them how to do that because they can't close out games.
Like everyone,
they can't even get games started now,
that's
right?
My point, man. Everyone wants to talk about the culture. Oh, he built a culture. There's a culture in Detroit. What culture? A losing one? Like, that's what, like, winning trumps everything. I'm not saying you can just be the world's shittiest human being. You can be the world's biggest asshole, but if you win, everything else is resolved. No, I'm not talking about that. But just because you're this rah-rah, I love the game, the people like playing for me, at some point, winning has to play a factor, and it's not so far. And if Matt Rule was already canned, then Dan Campbell should be next on the list.
I do have 3 things for you from yesterday's slate. Just looking at them here. So, like, Miami, right? They lose 40-17. Obviously, Bridgewater goes out with the concussion.
First play of the game.
Is there a free fall for Miami in sight? You got Tyreek Hill in the boot coming out. You already had Jalen Waddle, who was
they were both banged up heading into the game.
Exactly. So it kind of feels like a free fall for Miami in the future. Yeah. Now, who do they got next week? They got the Vikings next week. That's not an easy task, especially after you lose like that to the Jets. My other thing is King Henry back, man. Because I know we talked about that maybe 2-3 weeks ago, if he was done or not. Leads the league in carries, 5th in yards, 4th in touchdowns so far this season. It's just crazy we were talking about it. We may have counted him out a little too soon.
It's weird. And when I was watching Red Zone during the 1:00 hour, and that game was being flashed on and off, and he's definitely, like, he's still a top 5 running back in the league. Don't get it twisted. But when we mean is he back, is he the king? Right. There's not that, like, I'm seeing a lot of one-on-one tackles in the backfield for loss. Yeah. Things I'm not used to seeing. And at his size, with his, like, just from throughout his career following him, you don't see Derrick Henry getting taken down by, a safety for a loss of 3. And it just seems like I'm starting to see that more and more. So he's definitely still very, very good. He's definitely still the focal point of that offense. And he's playing better than he was the first 2 or 3 weeks of the year over the last 2 weeks. Yeah. But I don't see the same explosiveness out of him.
That's fair. And then my last one for you is more of just an awareness thing here. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the LA Chargers. Obviously, they've been able to get 2 wins in a row, able to escape Cleveland with a 2-point victory. Obviously, you'd like to see a stronger showing, but at least Austin Eckler was heavily involved in that game. Nick Chubb also had a game, 2 running backs going at it in that one. But that one was an interesting one. A lot of scoring, 30-28. But I am keeping my eye on the Chargers, and I'm keeping my eye on the Browns because, honestly, they've impressed me so far this season. I know they've been inconsistent, but they're in games that they shouldn't be in. I know they lost a game that they probably shouldn't have to the Jets. But they're in games that they quite honestly shouldn't be in without Deshaun Watson. So I'm interested to see what they look like once he comes back.
My pick was looking so good.
Can do. It was, man.
They so good.
Late victory for the Chargers, and hey, maybe that changes the trajectory of the Chargers season. Just getting 2 wins in a row. They take on Denver next week, who's in a bit of a whirlwind. So it's interesting nonetheless. Did you have any thoughts on the Sunday night game? I know we got to preview the Monday Night Football here soon.
I did. Ugly football. Ugly. Like this? It's what makes me worried about
that Bengals offense, man.
The Ravens as well, just too conservative. Like the Bengals specifically, not making a ton of sense. You come out on the first drive, You throw 3 times. You have the first play good, then the next 2 plays no success. You come out the next drive, you try to run the ball 3 times. And Scotty, that final was it heading into halftime or was it third quarter? I forget, but they were on the goal line, and the play calling inside the 10 was atrocious.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that final 4th down play
seems to be a running theme with the Bengals. Play calling
really,
like it's
really ugly, dude. Made 0 sense. Obviously, T. Higgins was banged up, but both teams were very conservative. Ugly football. The primetime games this year, man.
Yeah.
You had much better games lined up on the docket than we're used to seeing, and they've just been really bad football.
The one thing I'll say about tonight's game, because I know it is a division game, and quite honestly, I'm a little worried myself. It's a high spread, and I told you what I got going on with that game. But the one thing I don't have to worry about is the Chiefs coming out and playing aggressive offensively. That is like the one thing that I can look forward to, but it is a division game. Anything goes, which I guess we can get into that game a little bit now before we get out of here.
No, for sure. Let's do it. So this is a big one because I believe I saw a tweet earlier today. It was pretty funny. The Las Vegas Raiders with a win tonight would put themselves half a game out of first place in their division, but with a loss tonight would give them the first pick in the NFL draft.
Isn't that crazy, man?
Yeah. Like this game means so much to Vegas to keep themselves within this division, within the playoff race and within their division reach with the Chiefs. The Chiefs just look like a different monster. They continue to look super explosive offensively, even when we question what they'll look like without Tyreek Hill there anymore. Feels like they don't miss a beat. They're establishing the run, and man, that defense has looked a lot better than either of us probably expected.
Number 1 rush defense in the NFL right now.
Yeah, man. And that's going to play a big part in tonight's game, because if you take away Josh Jacobs from this offense, you're making Derek Carr have to sit back there and beat you with his arm and not turn the ball over. 110%. This is make or break. Like the numbers don't lie. Like a win keeps you within the race. And a loss puts you at what they would be 1-4, right? They're 1-3.
Yeah, 1-4.
Yeah. Loss puts you at 1-4, one of the worst records in the NFL. It would put the Chiefs at 4-1. You're not bouncing back from that. I'm sorry.
And I mean, I get it. Like the Chiefs are a powerhouse, and like I said, I am going with the Chiefs in this game. I'll put it out there. I'm going with the Chiefs.
I am as well.
7-point spread. I am taking the Chiefs in this game. But if there was any week where the Chiefs might overlook their opponent, it would be the week before they go and take on Buffalo. So take advantage, right? The Raiders are desperate. They need a W way more. I won't say they'll want it more than the Chiefs, but they need it more than the Chiefs. That's for sure. So there's some things that are playing into the Raiders' favor. They haven't, played to their ceiling, I would imagine. I didn't expect them to be this bad. So there are some things playing into the Raiders' favor. They're coming off a win against a division rival in the Denver Broncos. But I just think the Chiefs are, once again, it's one of these things where there's so many narratives and storylines that go into every game, and the great teams eliminate those narratives and storylines from affecting the game. The Bills, the Chiefs, and the Eagles, I think, are all 3 teams that are good enough to do that right now. It doesn't matter what momentum a team has going into a game. It doesn't matter what drama is going on outside of the game. It doesn't matter the records coming into the game. The Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Bills will go out there and they will beat their opponent. And that's just the way I look at the Chiefs tonight. They're going to come out. They're going to do what they're supposed to. And what they're supposed to do is be better than the Raiders. And that's what they're going to do. That's how I'm looking at this game. I do have some either-ors for you as far as player-wise, though. But what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say we already saw a Chiefs flop just 2 short weeks ago.
It's fair. To the Colts. Are they due for another already?
Yeah, you're not going to see one. And what I witnessed them do on primetime football to probably the best defense in the NFL at the moment was utterly ridiculous. And Patrick Mahomes playing the role of Houdini so early on in the year. When they're rolling, they're rolling. And that's you saw the outburst between Mahomes and Bieniemy at the end of the Colts game. 2 out of 3 weeks, they are not going to give you a dud. It's just not going to happen. They're too talented.
And bro, like you said, they just dropped 41 on the league's. I think we can all agree the Bucks throughout the first 5 weeks have had the best defense in the league. First 4 weeks, I'll say, have had the best defense in the league, and they came out and
yesterday
dropped
they were locked
41
down
on
again
them.
against the bad Falcons team. So
yeah, fair. So 5 weeks through, but nonetheless, I'm with you on the Chiefs tonight. Couple either ors.
Mm-hmm.
How about Devontae Adams or Travis Kelce tonight?
Touchdown?
Who has a better game?
Oh, I say Travis Kelce has the better game. In terms of gambling for you, I saw the odds. I definitely like Devontae Adams to score tonight. And I know Kelce's like minus 150. Adams is like plus money. So I would go Adams. But I think against that Vegas defense, which is, but their pass rush is good. I don't like their secondary. And I think Mahomes can exploit the middle of the field. And who's there? Old reliable.
You already know. What about Jacobs or CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
CEH, man. You talked about the numbers and the ranking that the Chiefs defense is coming into tonight in terms of the run game. Josh Jacobs and this Raiders team they don't run the ball effectively 95% of the time. Now, obviously, they did last week. They ran a decent amount last week, but it doesn't happen quite often for them. And I don't think they'll be able to establish the run tonight against Kansas City. Yeah. And Kansas City has been able to run the ball effectively all year long. CEH is having a much improved year from last year. Yeah. He's much more involved in the offense. I also think he gets the ball. Game. I also think he gets the ball in the air a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I do. Well, we'll go over our parlays, but I definitely have him in through the air. It's only a little bit. I think it's like 15 yards, but nonetheless. I was just checking to see here if Hunter Renfrow is in.
I think he is.
Because I was going to say Renfrow or Juju. Who do you think has a bigger game tonight?
Renfrow.
Go on with Renfrow.
I have not liked what I've seen out of Juju. And as Hunter said, he might be a little banged up as well. I have not liked what I've seen at all. And I don't see this one's interesting, man. So I'm on DraftKings and they put up new thread, same intentions. And it's funny you bring up Juju because it's one of the quick same game parlays they put together. Yeah. It's Devontae Adams, 85 plus receiving yards and 7 plus receptions. And it's Juju, 55 plus receiving yards and 5 plus receptions. Plus 475. I don't hate it. I just don't know if Juju gets that much attention tonight.
Yeah, right. Gets that many targets.
Especially not when a sports book's promoting it. It's just really.
Yeah, that's my thing. I did take the Clyde Edwards-Helaire anytime touchdown with you though. They put a boost on that plus 150. So I had to throw down on that. He has scored in every single game this season. I don't see why that would change tonight. I didn't have an either or for Darren Waller, but he's just been kind of rocky this year. He hasn't been showing up. So I'm interested to see what we see from him tonight. But it should be an interesting game, like we talked about earlier on in the season. The Raiders are a team that we thought highly of coming into the season. That division, maybe we overrated a little bit. There's still a long season to go, but interesting game tonight nonetheless, division wise. But I'll give you a parlay that I got.
Okay.
Plus 500. So I got, and this is, I'm surprised it's only plus 500 now that I'm looking at. So I have Kelce TD, Adams TD.
Okay.
Carr 230 plus, Mahomes 255 plus, and Adams 60 plus, Kelce 60 plus. That's plus 500. I have a safer one, which is plus 110. I have Kansas City over 2.5 touchdowns.
Okay.
Over 27 points and win by 5.5. Or not cover, but it's teased down a little bit. And then I have one more at plus 531, which is a Clyde Edwards-Helaire touchdown. Mahomes 230 plus, Kansas City to cover, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire 15 plus receiving yards.
Interesting. So as you're speaking, I wasn't going to put one in.
Yeah.
And I'm just building as you're speaking.
I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire a lot tonight. I will say that.
So for those, I haven't said mine yet. So I have not built a parlay yet. I have about 5 minutes to get this in if I'm doing it. But I did. DraftKings boosted CEH to score a touchdown to plus 150. So I did that. They also boosted over 9.5 total points in the first quarter to plus 100. So I did that. That one's iffy, but with these two offenses 10 points. Like that's all
Unless
I need.
something weird's going on.
Yeah.
Unless something weird's going on.
You know what you could see? A very long drive. And then I'm like, oh, damn, here we go.
Yeah.
That would hurt. So I did that. And then this one's stupid, but PointsBet sent me an email that they gave me the Chiefs money line boosted to plus 100.
Damn.
So I'm like, all right, yeah. So I throw money in the PointsBet, $20 max bet. So whatever. Hopefully I can take the 20 from them tonight. But let me read you this one before I place this if I do it. Devontae Adams, anytime touchdown scorer. Derek Carr over 229.5. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Mahomes
over he's gonna have to.
Mahomes over 249.5.
Yeah, I think he does that on an off night. You know what I mean? But it's just if there's one of these weird games where they're running.
But he did it
really
last week,
that's
so
what
I kind of like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelsey over 59.5.
Yeah.
Adams over 64.5.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming he's playing Hunter Renfrow over 29.5.
Yeah, if he plays, yeah.
It's plus 475.
I like it. It's very similar to the one I had, just minus the Kelsey TD.
I'm interested. Like, what would it be without? See, like, do I even do this just to like feel better about it? If I take Devontae Adams' touchdown out of it, it's still plus 260. Like I'm all about profit, man. I'm all about.
I know.
Profit.
With Devontae Adams, I'm just like, who else is going to score for them tonight? You know what I mean?
I feel you.
If they're going to score, it's going to be Adams. But I know what you mean. Yeah, it always happens like that. AJ Brown, for instance, yesterday.
Oh, and as I'm going to place it, they logged me out of DraftKings. So before we wrap up this show, let me place this parlay live here. Chop, checking location. Yup, come on. Talk to him, Scotty. Oh, why do I have a boost?
Talk to him.
I somehow have a boost. I'll take it.
Damn, a boost.
Carr, Mahomes, Adams, Renfrow, Kelsey. I didn't even know I had a boost.
Oh, I think I already used my boost. I think that's what I did.
We love to see it, man. We do love to see it. Guys, that is going to wrap up this Monday edition of NFL Turf Talks. I mean, I gotta say, I'm liking the 3-day-a-week setup here. It makes the topics a little more honed in instead of having to cover so much on a Thursday night. But guys, check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. Check the link tree out in our bio to take you to every social media platform we are available on. We are now officially over the 660 mark on YouTube. Help us reach 700 YouTube subscribers. It's free. Press a button. It is daily Philadelphia sports and sports content every single day here on DSM Media. And for those of you who don't know, DSM Media is brought to you by Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of 2 of their great locations in Fishtown and Old City and book your appointment today. Gents owns the craft and it shows. Rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area, having multiple award-winning barbers and being able to handle any style of cut, adult or kid. Here's a look at some of Gents' great work. Check them out at www.gentsbarberlounge.com and book your appointment today. Again, that's www.gentsbarberlounge.com. Also, check out our friends at Luxiden Jewelers at shopluxiden.com. At checkout, promo code DSM in all caps for 25% off. They also offer free shipping. Again, that is promo code DSM, all capital letters, for 25% off and free shipping at shopluxiden.com. For myself, for Scotty, go enjoy some Monday Night Football. Have a great rest of your night.
Go Bird.
One-on-one.